Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we start Unit 4, Theories of War, and we are starting with Marxist approach to war. Marxist framework for study does not consider state as autonomous units. Ruling class interests drive the state and capitalist states are primarily driven by interest of their bourgeois. This implies that conflict between states must be seen in economic context of competition between capitalist classes of different states. Marxists consider class conflict more fundamental than conflict between states as the real cause of war. The Marxist analysis argues that politics is determined by vital interests of different classes evolved by the socio-economic system of the exploiter state. It is this system that gives rise to wars. The First and Second World War were a result of socio antagonism inherent in capitalism and contradictions between the bourgeois states that led to the division of capitalist world into hostile coalitions. After the world wars, the main contradiction was between the two opposing social systems, capitalism and socialism. These were basically class contradictions. Thus, from the Marxist perspective, class contradictions leave a mark on all international events. The expansionist nature of capitalism is another feature that the Marxists focus on. Such expansion had taken the form of imperialism and colonialism during the early century. Today, in the post colonial age, it has taken form of economic globalization led by transnational corporations. Now we are going to discuss the just war. When is a war justified? Under what circumstances do legal, ethical, and moral principles justify aggression? Michel Wasser presents the theory of aggression in the form of six propositions. First, there exists an international society of independent states. These states are sovereign entities. These states and not private citizens are members of this international society of nations. Second, this international society has a law that establishes the rights of its members, above all, rights of territorial integrity and political sovereignty. Third, any use of force or imminent threat of force by one state against the political sovereignty or territorial integrity of another constitutes aggression and is a criminal act. The focus here is on boundary crossings, invasions, and physical assaults. In modern times, this would also include low intensity conflict situations like insurrections and dissect movement, turning into localized conflicts. Fourth, aggression justifies two kinds of violent response: a war of self defense by the victim and a war of law enforcement by the victim and any other member of the international society. The presumption here is that the retaliation against the aggressor may or may not come from the aggravated party. It may come from any other state that feels compelled to return to the stability of the international society. Fifth, nothing but aggression can justify a war. The central purpose of the theory is to limit the occasion for a war. There must have been a wrong committed and a wrong received by the recipient to justify use of force. And the last six, once the aggressor state has been militarily repulsed, it can also be punished. The conception of just war is, as an act of punishment is old, but the procedures and forms of punishment have never been established in customary or positive international law. The purposes of such a punishment has also not been spelled out, whether it is for retribution, deterrence against any other state, or reforms of the original aggressor. Let us discuss changing nature of war. Two factors have contributed to changes in the approaches to understanding of war: role of nationalism and the revolutions in technology. The former addresses the theoretical concerns about war, while the latter addresses the tools used for war. The changes in the technology have had an immediate impact on the strategy and tactics of war, and as such are not a matter of discussion in this chapter. The right to self determination based on ethnic nationalism had been the source of continuous conflict across Europe in the 19th century. The interwar years saw the concept of self determination being used with the explicit recognition given to it by Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. This concept has secured a renewed legitimacy in the post Soviet world, with the new states emerging on this very theoretical construct. The process of disintegration of the Soviet state and the granting of legitimacy to the new states was done on the basis of principle of ethnic nationalism and right to self-determination. This construct was also used both for legitimizing and disintegration of Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia and the integration of Germany. A variety of secessionist movements across the world used this as a theoretical foundation for describing their struggle as national liberation. The concept of nationalism cuts across the system, state, and individual level analysis of war. It has been a force to reckon with and is likely to dominate the approaches to understanding war in the years to come. At another level, a war to overthrow an unjust social and economic order is also justified. In this case, aggression is not limited to a direct military attack, but with internal matters also. This right is legitimate only if it seeks to remedy injustice. Injustice is defined mostly in terms of violation of human rights. Just cause theories are based on the need to remedy injustice. They have a strong connection with the right to resist tyranny. There is a strong internal connection between right to resist tyranny and self-determination. The right to self-determination is provided for in the framework of human rights. The basis for the exercise of this right is as follows. A group of victimized systematic discrimination or exploitation takes place. Territory is illegally occupied. There exists a valid claim to the territory. Culture of the community is threatened and constitutional remedies do not exist. Some of the approaches mentioned above may be useful in explaining and underlying causes of conflict. Others may explain the crisis behavior. These theoretical approaches provide some understanding of the nature of war. Now let us sum up. War is conflict between relatively large groups of people, which involves physical force inflicted by the use of weapons. Starting out with the basic premise that war is an instrument of national policy, we observed that while war is waged on the diplomatic, economic, propaganda fronts, the traditional military aspect of war has continued to dominate the discourse in peace and conflict studies. In this unit, we have examined the causes of war at system, state, and individual levels of analysis. At the systems level, the focus of analysis is on the global social, cultural, economic, political, geographical environment within which the state and non state actors operate. State level analysis, on the other hand, focuses on the nation state and the internal process of the state. The individual level analysis focuses on human nature and therefore the psychological and biological factors that contribute to decision making. Cutting across these different levels of analysis is nationalism, which remains a powerful force to reckon with. Ethnic nationalism and right of self determination that became prominent in the early 20th century remain powerful forces and have secured renewed legitimacy in the post Cold War period, both because of collapse of the Soviet Union as well as because of economic integration of the globe. The idealist, realist, and Marxist approaches to war examined in this unit are useful in explaining the underlying causes of war or explaining the crisis behavior of the state. Now we want to wind up this lecture and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you so much for your attention.